and that's exactly what it was, a fad. It was a social contagion. Real affirmative care means getting comfortable in your own skin. Cancel culture seems to be an era bygone at this point in American history, which I'm excited about. And reading J.K. Rowling's own tweets, clearly she's not campaigning against anyone. She's campaigning for the existence of women.
So the kids, it turns out, are all right. Rather right-wing across Britain and America, Gen Z isn't marching left anymore. It's breaking right. Young men especially are ditching woke politics for populism, nationalism and a healthy dose of anti-establishment rebellion. They've watched their elders cancel and scold and censor, and you know what? They've had enough. For them, the real rebellion now is free speech, faith, borders. It's the first generation where it's cooler to quote Donald Trump than terror goblin Greta Thunberg. So what's really behind the rise of this young right? Gen Z conservative firebrand herself, Isabel Brown, host of the Isabel Brown Show, is in the studio with us. What's going on? There's hope. There's hope for the kids.
There's been a lot of hope for a while. There's a few of us that have been singing through the megaphone for a long time to be paying attention to Gen Z. I wrote a book on the subject that came out last spring in advance of the election about how Gen Z was going to save America, and then at that time was laughed off set by virtually every television, radio, and podcast network, insisting we all had purple hair and 37 genders. But it turns out, as we found out in November, Gen Z is the most conservative generation America has seen since World War II, not just politically, which is a huge win, but culturally too. We want to get married, we're eating real food, we're going back to church, we're moving out of big cities, and there seems to be this renaissance of Western civilization again, led by young people.
What can you pinpoint a moment where everyone started to wake up in time? I kind of think you're going to look back at the last 10 years and some of the madness we've had. We'll get onto the gender stuff in a minute, but some of the cancel culture, the censorship, the hysteria, the group herd mentality. It's kind of like we're going to look back at the last 5, 6, 7 years as almost like a sort of Salem witch hunt blip in history where everyone goes, yeah, well, that was really weird. What the hell happened there?
Yeah.
When did the tide start to turn?
I sure hope we look back on this as a moment of insanity instead of our future, and I think that will depend on the continued activism of young people. But it's very difficult to pinpoint a specific point in time because this has been a result of efforts for a very long time from people like Charlie Kirk, who saw the vision way ahead into the future, knowing we had to plant little seeds along the way to change people's minds. Ultimately, though, I think COVID was such an important turning point for young people.
You can't lock people up for
realizing your voice matters, what you're learning in school matters, the relationships you have should be in person, they shouldn't be through a screen, and that was a great opportunity for young people to look in the mirror.
Do you think that what the sort of fundamental sort of almost like electric shock therapy from the state is that actually you give it about go, hang on, especially young people, the least at risk from the disease being made to ask the biggest sacrifices of it, and do you think that has had a sort of scarring effect on
Oh, absolutely, undoubtedly. If you're watching young people be told they have to do something in any era of history, we're naturally rebellious in our young years, and I think it was an opportunity to say, hang on a second, should I really trust the experts and blindly follow the science if the science is the opposite of what we're hearing on cable television? You
were at the White House last night for the Charlie Kirk medal ceremony. Again, astonishing scenes like we saw in Arizona for his funeral. The Trump administration really does seem to be picking up and running with this idea of notion that it's there is a turning point. There is something is happening out there, to coin a phrase which Nigel Farage uses a lot in London. Is there an element of sort of political advantage being played here? Is there an element of politics? Obviously, J.D. Vance is joining the speaking tour, the Turning Point speaking tour. Are we seeing the sort of almost the political and electoral battle to capitalise on this change already starting?
If anything, I think this is a transcendence of the political fight that we've seen Charlie be fighting for such a long time. We already were trending in that direction. Young men overwhelmingly voted for Trump and Vance to take back the White House in November, and young women already shifted 11 points toward the Republican Party from 2020 to 2024. Wow. Instead, what I think we're seeing is a revival, far more than playing politics. We're watching young people go back to church. Bible sales are up 22%.
That's
Spotify
in the UK as well.
Music is up 50% in the last few years. And J.D. Vance himself said at Charlie's memorial, he has spoken more about Jesus in the last 2 weeks than ever before in his public life, and he's not going backwards.
No, I think you can spot that. Now, look, there's some fascinating polling out. Well, not really polling, more sort of tracking data about young Americans identifying as trans and non-binary. Just reading here, 2022, nearly 7% of US undergrads called themselves something other than male or female. That has plummeted to 3.6%.
Wow.
Do you link that to what we're seeing, or what we've been previously discussing about that sort of waking up and common sense, or is there something else at play here? What do you make of it?
Oh, of course. I mean, I don't think it's in question at all that the era of the trans fad for young people is over. And that's exactly what it was, a fad. It was a social contagion that largely was driven by societal advantages given to people identifying as not really either or just putting on the trans label.
And adults willing to go along with this nonsense.
Absolutely, to give you college scholarships, preferable admission opportunities, job advantages.
And dangerous, life-changing, altering hormones and operations.
At younger and younger ages. But when we have watched people like Charlie Kirk and those in his orbit have the courage to tell young people the truth in love, that you were made in the image of God on purpose as a young man or a young woman, and real affirmative care means getting comfortable in your own skin, not needing to mutilate or castrate yourself, to love yourself when you look in the mirror, that's what we should be fighting for.
It strikes me the UK is slightly further. I've had this discussion on the show many times, that the UK is, I think, on this issue slightly further ahead in the backlash against trans ideology and the sort of associated cottage industry around it, not least shutting down the Tavistock Centre, NHS hospital that was leading the pioneering research into all this, but actually, frankly, mutilating kids. Where do you think America is? I mean, obviously, there seems to be signs in the data, but where do you think the American public are, the political class and media class are on this? Are they still afraid to speak out of it for fear of being cancelled?
I don't think so. Cancel culture seems to be an era bygone at this point in American history, which I'm excited about. There are, of course, a few loud, really insane people that are all bought in on gender ideology, and that's not unexpected. We were so fanatical about this for the last several years that it will take time to deprogram some of the leading doctors, media personalities, educators, and so many others across our country. But it's so telling to me that driven by young people, when you see that graph going viral this week on social media, the self-identification of, I don't really know, I don't really want to be a boy or a girl is going away. It
was peer pressure, wasn't it? There was a study in the UK that showed the levels of female anorexia amongst schoolgirls declined at exactly the same time as their trans questioning and wanting to transition soared. And that's, it's peer pressure, isn't it? It's one person in the class does it, other people move on. What do you you're right in saying it's just a fad, right?
Oh, absolutely. Abigail Schreier, investigative journalist, wrote a book on this very topic called Irreversible Damage, specifically looking at teenage girls years ago. And way ahead of her time, was canceled by the media for saying this out loud, but found it was exactly the same pattern of behavior we saw with eating disorders throughout the 90s, with suicide clusters throughout the early 2000s. When you watched one girl in a friend group in middle school or high school in America all of a sudden say, I don't think I want to be a girl, I kind of want to be
Brian,
either. All of a sudden that spread like wildfire throughout an entire friend group, an entire class, an entire middle school. And just to know that we have the courage, driven by young people, to walk out of their middle school classrooms when a boy is using their bathroom, as we're seeing in Oregon and California this last month, young people to say, thank you, Charlie Kirk, for being honest with us that I am a young woman and I can be comfortable in my own skin. I'm seeing those clips all over social media this month. It's really encouraging to see.
Let's see someone who, talking of cancel culture, won't be cancelled. Let's see what Keira Knightley had to say.
I saw your voicing Professor Umbridge in the new Harry Potter audiobooks. I was wondering, are you aware that some fans are calling for a boycott, given J.K. Rowling's ongoing campaign against trans people?
I was not aware of that, no. I'm very sorry. I think we're all living in a period of time right now. We're all going to have to figure out how to live together, aren't we? And we've all got very different opinions. So I hope that we can all find respect.
Yes, darling of the Hollywood liberal elite there, just laughing. I mean, she obviously got to the platitudes eventually, but just laughing there. Isabel Brown, that is a turning point, right? Because I reckon 3 years ago, Hollywood stars were, even the kids that J.K. Rowling has made millionaires at age 9 or whatever it was, shamefully sort of threw her to the wolves. Even the tone of that question there that was put to Keira Knightley, I've never seen J.K. Rowling campaign against trans people. She's campaigning against the harm done by it. But that was quite a moment, right? That's quite a cultural moment. Exactly what you said.
It was, yeah.
Even Hollywood have gone, oh no, you know what? this is nonsense.
The posing of that question was immediately what struck me as well,
Yeah.
because if you've been paying attention for longer than 5 seconds and reading J.K. Rowling's own tweets, clearly she's not campaigning against anyone.
Yeah.
She's campaigning for the existence of women and
yeah.
watching the erasure of that happen in the UK and across the West. The fact that Keira Knightley felt emboldened enough to laugh in the response to that question, that never could have happened 6 months or a year ago. And to know that as people like Emma Watson are using their platforms to say, oh, encouraging young people to get married is a violence culturally in the West today, and J.K. Rowling is contributing to some of that negative discourse, that we have the capacity to laugh about this tells me everything I need to know. Cancel culture is dead.
Woke is dead. Isabel Brown, thank you for coming. Come back and see us soon.